Welcome to the Other Side Pod. I'm Nadine. We're not experts. We're just humans having a human experience we think you can learn from, or relate to, or laugh at, or cry over. So hit download, dive in, and hear how folks found themselves on the other side. All right, we are recording with the lovely Amanda. Amanda, you drive quite a bit when you go home to visit your family, and I want to know if you had to listen to one album from start to finish, what's your go-to album?
Oh my goodness. It heavily depends on the mood, I will say
Okay.
that. Mainly because it's like a 5.5 hour drive to my parents from Ottawa. So I'm sure you can relate to this. There's like an hour of sing screaming. There might be a cry. There's some silence in there. There's like you go through your phases of the road trip. There's
Yeah.
podcasts, there's all of it. Um, on a road trip, I get nostalgic, so it would be Oasis.
Oh, stop it. Wait, one
Yeah.
particular album or just in
I often
general?
just throw on like the radio or the greatest hits kind of thing, but
Yeah.
Oasis, sometimes like it's an old Coldplay. I will
Like it.
think about that and interrupt the podcast with an album if something else pops in my head. But Oasis, I was driving today and it was Oasis. Greatest hits or the radio or
So
whatever.
great.
Yeah.
I love an essentials playlist. My best girlfriend Henny, she's always an album. It has to be the album from start to finish. I'm like, yes, I like an album and I can appreciate it, but I love an essentials of whatever artist I'm in the mood for because it's just gonna throw a bunch of different years out to me. And as
Yeah.
we both know, like music brings you back to a time. So anyway, Oasis, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, tell us who you are.
I am a portrait brand and commercial photographer in Ottawa.
And an
And
overall and lovely human.
yeah, I guess on a personal side, I'm born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario, Northern Ontario. Spent my summers on Manitoulin Island each year as I was growing up, so I have a big love for wide open space, lakes, that kind of life. I was living in Toronto for after university for about 7 or 8 years previous to coming to Ottawa, and now Ottawa is now home.
Manitoulin Island is where?
It's in Lake Huron. It's the
Okay.
largest freshwater island in the world. I have a
Oh,
hat that says that. Yeah, it is. So you would go like driving from Sudbury, you go west, and then you sort of go a little bit south once you hit Espanola area. Yeah, it's an island in Lake Huron. It's kind of in the middle, inconveniently
yeah.
accessible from multiple points in the province.
How long of a drive from your parents' house there?
For my parents' house, 2.5.
Okay, which is like
Yeah.
easily doable for summer cottaging. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's a nice distance where like, we'd go for the weekend and you feel very removed from where you were driving from Sudbury because 2.5 hours, like you're not going to turn around and go back. Like you're there for the weekend or the week or whatever it is. And I've just, you get used to that drive. And especially if you do it your whole life, every sort of milestone along the way. Oh, we've reached this point, it's the turn or this little town or this or whatever. So I just know it like the back of my hand. It feels like a 30-minute drive to me.
What did you want to be as a little kid?
Oh, I I don't know. I don't have like a memory of wanting to be a particular thing. When I was little, I really loved to write and draw. I always sort of had this creative energy, I think, in me that I, wanted to do something with. But I don't think I ever envisioned photography being my full-time job. That wasn't really ever on the table until it was kind of in front of me, I guess.
So cool. When did you first
Mhm.
pick up a camera? Do you remember?
I do. So my dad has always been super into photography, and he was kind of like when we were kids, if we get together with like family friends, we'd have a cottage weekend or do whatever. or even just with family, he was always the one with the camera taking sort of these candid photos of, you know, whatever was happening. I have a vision of sort of at the cottage, or photos of us sort of jumping off the dock. We'd be in the middle of the air and he'd, capture the frame sort of thing. And photography was always just something that was like part of what we would do. Sometimes it was candid, sometimes we were doing something for the photo in a sense, and sort of the activity was photography. So I did certainly pick it up from my dad, sort of just the use of the camera as sort of like a creative tool, or a tool to sort of like capture in a memory. And yeah, back in the day it was all film. So, we'd go to Walmart and bring the film and then go back and get the envelope and be so excited to go through all of the photos. And then he was so good at curating. Like, he would go through all the photos and he'd have these big albums with the sticky paper that you peel back, and he'd place all of the images just so that it would tell a story of the summer or the vacation or whatever it was. And their basement is just full of those beautiful albums, and they're such a treat to go through. Um, but yeah, I would say that sort of was my introduction to photography. It was very personal. It was sort of for the family. And occasionally, like, my dad never owned a video camera, but he would borrow one, like once a year, or I don't even know. But I remember just adoring being in front of the camera. And I thought it was just very funny that we could use this camera, to be funny and tell stories, like dart across the scene or get really up close to the camera. And it was a way for us to sort of not only capture what was going on, but express our senses of humor a little bit, with the zoom in and the zoom out. And anyway, it was sort of a different way for me creatively to express myself in a very attention seeking way as a child. But those are,
And
very,
relate.
yeah, exactly. Very comfortable on the back side of the camera now, but it's capturing, whether video or photo. It's just been like always a part of my life to have fun, connect with people, and it's definitely translated certainly how, I work professionally, but I love that it came from a place of just for fun.
Is there a photo that you think of in your childhood that you remember seeing and just being like, "I cannot believe he captured that moment." Like you said about jumping off the dock, like, does something stand out that just kind of made you realize what photography can do?
Okay, I do. Well, I have many. I have so many, like, images that come to mind, but there's one I remember. Again, I have so many beautiful memories of like the cottage, and I feel like my memories are always with other people that were joining us. It was like family friends there, or just the family, everybody's together. And there was this one evening, the sun had gone down and we had family friends there. And I guess there was a table, or a candle on the table, and me and a friend were sitting there. And my dad said, lean close to the candle, maybe look at the candle for a second. He just had this vision for this photo. And it was filmed, so we didn't know like what on earth really his vision was, but he captured this picture, and we're just kind of sitting by the candle. And when we got it printed, it's just dark all around us, except the candlelight is lighting our faces, and we're just little kids. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's such a cool, like, he saw the light from the candle and he had this vision for it. And it was just this one little moment. And then we carry on with, the times we were having or whatever. But that photo sticks out. And he actually submitted it to Cottage Life magazine, has these photo contests. Cottage Life magazine was a very big deal in our home. And he submitted it. And since then, a lot of the photography that we would do, especially at the cottage, we'd always joke like, "Oh, this one's for Cottage Life. We're going to send this one to Cottage Life." And that one, I remember just thinking, "We're going to win," and we didn't win, but it was just, you remember those things.
Yeah. I love that your dad is the person that inspired you with photography. Like, wow. Do you remember falling in love with a photographer that you didn't know? I just remember being really obsessed with, can't remember his name.
Mm.
He was famous for taking a lot of street photography, like candid shots. And I think he was in New York, and I cannot remember this guy's name. But is there anybody like that for you that you were like, I don't know, I want this like big table book for Christmas kind of deal?
That's a good question. Oh, there wasn't any one photographer that I can like ring off the name of sort of thing. But I would say again, like Cottage Life magazine was this magazine that came into our lives. My parents had the subscription, and I remember looking at the photos in the magazine and thinking they just represented such bliss. They were just beautiful photos of beautiful cottages with so much sort of life and energy in them. They were all unique cottages, and the photography would show people in them enjoying the cottage and jumping off the dock at camp, again, inspiring many hours of jumping off the dock at camp, trying to get that style of shot. So I would say that was probably my earliest inspiration from a photography perspective. Um, but I'm not one particular photographer.
I wish you were like Ann Geddes.
Yeah, yeah. We did have an Ann Geddes in our bathroom, I think.
Who
So
didn't,
I was
Amanda?
exposed.
I also loved fashion photography a lot. Like, oh, what's that person's name that's taken like so many photos? Annie Leibovitz? Annie Leibovitz? Leibovitz?
Leibovitz, maybe. I have a few
Leibovitz?
of her books. She
It
actually just came out with a collection. Sorry to totally cut you off.
no, please cut me off.
Um, she's got a collection. It's a two-book series. I think the first one came out a while ago, but there's a second one that just came out. I got it for Christmas, and it's these two books. It's called Women, and it's just portraits of women, like
Ugh.
artists, famous people, farmers. Like it's just such a wide range of women, and you can spend so much time just looking at every single photo. It's remarkable. They're really beautiful
How
books.
would you prep getting your photo taken by Annie Leibovitz? Oh my gosh.
Leibovitz, I think. How would you
Leibovitz?
prep? I
Yeah.
feel like she's very, like, I don't think she really wants you to prep. I feel like a lot of her work is almost like slightly imperfect. I was really noticing that in this book is like in photography, often for like capturing someone's portrait, I wouldn't ever take a photo where like someone's hand, like just their fingers are like cut out of frame. You want to make sure that their hand is in the frame or it's out of the frame, but it's not like kind of halfway through. Um, that's just one thing that like I pay attention to or whatever. But I noticed that she doesn't. There'd be like composition things that I'm like, this is a weird choice of hers. But I think she goes for imperfection sometimes, also perfection, but I think I you can really feel that she wants to like represent someone in like a very kind of off the cuff way a lot of the time. This is my interpretation, of course, but I feel like she wouldn't want you to prep too hard. Like,
Ugh.
welcome into her into your space and she'll decide you over here, this is what we're doing kind of thing. So I probably
I,
wouldn't prepare. I just let her in. This is me.
I love that. I feel that way about you, but I feel about you because you've taken my photo. We've done branding shots before, and so it had to be very purposeful, but also we had the space and I played with the clothes, but I actually feel when you're taking the photo so confident that you will just place me in whatever way that's going to bring me out of me. And I don't know how you do it because you capture a lot of humans in your job. How do you bring the person out of the person, if that makes sense? Like, how do you get Nadine's energy in a still shot? I don't get it.
I love that. That's such a sweet question and compliment all in one. Thank you.
Well, it's
Um,
you. So thank
yeah,
you.
I think when it comes to brand portraits, there's always some research that we want to do beforehand or conversation at least. Like you are sort of building this brand alongside this photography project. So there was some work that you had been doing, but the photography was also kind of aiding in defining that to me. That was my read on it. Um, And so I like to go into those types of shoots with like what I call like an 80% plan, but leave 20% for and this is like from a timeline perspective, but also just creatively leave 20% for sort of just oh, I have an idea, let's do this, or the sun is coming through the window in a really interesting way. Let's pause on what we're doing and like, get creative with what we have here. And I think that leaving that flexibility and giving ourselves some time, some padding extra time in the shoot allows for us to not feel rushed, which is super key, especially if we're capturing someone in front of the lens. And also just going into it, especially when it's portraits of someone, going into it as a full collaboration. Like I don't have as much experience working with models. My experience is very much real people. Often my client is my subject. And so it's a vulnerable thing stepping in front of the camera. I completely understand that. I've been there. Even if you like it, it's still like, there's opportunity there to express yourself, and you're stepping in front of the camera and you're kind of opening yourself up to being perceived, and that's a very vulnerable place to be. So I try to make the portrait experience as collaborative as possible. So well before picking up the camera, making sure that we're aligned on what kind of images we feel will capture you. So if you have, say, a Pinterest board where you're like, I love all these portraits, I like that they're candid, or I like that she's wearing this, or I like that they're in black and white, or, you know, inspiration imagery, people will take sort of different impressions of what that inspiration is, but trading that and making sure that we're relatively on the same page well before the shoot day helps me understand what people's vision is, and also helps my subjects slash clients feel that they're being seen and heard, sort of thing, and what their wants are.
Oh, it's good
Um,
to know, I think, especially if someone's listening and they want to book shots for whatever, portrait shots,
mhm.
brand shots, and like get their team involved. I think people want something that really does show who they are instead of this
Yeah.
is how you pose because this is the pose that everyone else on the team is doing. It's a real gift to be able
Hmm.
to express yourself. And it's also
Yeah.
really nerve-wracking because it's like, how do I do that? So probably what I'm hearing from you, the best thing to do is, well, number one, have that pre-call chat with you and you get a feel for the person, but also to look for those things on Pinterest or wherever, just like scan through to see what you like about something. And even if you don't know what you like about the photo, to show you, because you have a
Hmm.
different lens, LOL, pun intended. But you'll see it
Yeah.
and you'll be like, oh, I think you like this because of this. And then you'll probably ask
Hmm.
like further up questions.
I will say that, like, going in with a bunch of inspiration, that's especially helpful for brands. It's also helpful, yeah, if you do have a vision or whatever, but there is something to be said. Like, another, what I was going to say is on the day of the shoot, arriving and making sure that there's a sense of trust between humans, between me and the person that I'm shooting with, is very important. And I shoot most of the time tethered to my laptop so that when we're capturing these portraits, we have a chance to review them together and make sure you like what you see. And if there's anything you don't like, it's often like my hair or, whatever things that we can fix, or maybe it's the light or the pose. We can look at them, be very real with one another. What do you like about this? What do you not like about this? And then we just shift gears, like, oh, you don't like that pose? Perfect. I have another idea. um, and making it a true collaboration is that's what yields the best results, that there's a trusting openness to what we're doing. And my goal is not to capture a photo that's perfect for my portfolio, it's to capture a portrait that's perfect for that person and how they want to represent themselves. And in terms of posing too, you can come in with a perfect plan. I want this, I want that, I want to recreate this exact image. But even when I have subjects sit down in a chair, if I have like one chair and I have people coming through all day, everyone is going to sit in that chair differently. Depends how tall you are or what your body is like or whatever. And so I often, whether we're standing or seated or whatever, I'll just say, okay, if we're just chatting, like, sit down in this chair, how would you normally be sitting? And we just start there. And then, someone will be doing something with their head and I'm like, okay, tilt your head that way, or let's try this, let's try that. And I think ultimately, to end this rant, you can go in with the most like rigid plan. You can have your hair perfect, your makeup perfect. You could do all of these things, but to me, the best portrait, the what will yield the best portrait is just showing up as yourself, with trust, with confidence, with openness. And if that's there, then we can work together and capture something great. If that's not there, it's going to be a lot harder.
What is the hardest thing for you about shoot days?
They're very physically heavy. shoot days. I find as I get older, my body is like at the end of the day, if I have a really big day, my body is screaming at me. And
Really?
I think it's because I get really excited and I'll just put myself into these positions where I'm like lunging on my left leg all day long. So at the end of the day, my left leg hurts, my right one is totally fine. Or my back is sore because I'm curled up like this. And that's a big challenge for me because I think when you get in that sort of creative flow state, I will do anything to get the shot. Like I will dive onto the floor. All my clothes are dirty half the time. Like I just, you get so excited, especially shooting
Right.
with you for your brand. I was laying on the floor the whole time for that shoot.
Oh my God. Remember Abby
Um,
had the leaf blower going? She could
yes,
hear.
yeah, it was a huge
That
team
was
effort.
fun.
We were all on the
Oh,
floor.
it was such
Um,
beautiful shots.
that was a fun one too, because I mean, talk about going in with a plan, but also, we had an idea, we had a vision, but then it was like, okay, you guys do your thing. I'm just gonna be a fly on the wall. And that was such a gift that you gave me that trust to just run around the room, capture what's happening, go off. And I was working out as hard as everybody else was. I was sweating, I was on the floor, I was running around, and I was so proud of what we captured. It was just such a the energy was very genuine in that room, and so that's why the images were so special.
And I guess that makes sense as you're telling me that everybody will sit in a chair differently. Because I would think at the time there was probably a dozen of us on the team. I mean, there was a lot more people in the room because we did a class as well. But for the bio shots for the website, no one looks the same. I mean, no one looked the same, but like pose wise or even the energy coming, like you just captured the person in the person. And I don't know how you do it. It's so beautiful. It's so well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's so lovely. And so, I mean, I think I come across as someone who'd be very comfortable in front of the camera, but I'm not. I'm actually not that I'm shy. It's not that. I'm not a shy person, but I'm comfortable chatting with people and I'm comfortable connecting with other people because I'm naturally very curious about others. But when it's flipped back to me, I'm like, how do I get myself out of myself? Because I can be very much in my head. But your camera doesn't feel like this divide between me and you. It's like this is going to sound so silly, but like you're one with like you're the person. I don't even the camera's there. It's like another hand belonging to your body or another appendage on your body. And
That
I
means
think it's
so
because
much.
well,
That
and I
is the
think it's
biggest compliment.
because you're communicating with me the whole time. You're checking in. Anyway, so it just doesn't feel like there's a machine and then there's a person behind it that I'm trying to like work around and connect to the
The
joy.
energy is so important. Like the energy of the room is
Yeah,
like sacred a little bit. Like it's
right.
very important to get it right. And I think like you and I both can read people. You know when someone's uncomfortable or you know when they're having a great time. And also just asking people, how are you feeling? And do you want to switch it up? Do you want to take a break? Do you want to do this? I love taking portraits of people so much because I mean, also deep within me is like such a people pleaser, but I just love helping people feel so great and
Hmm.
making sure that they have a good time in the process because we've all been there where, you go on Facebook and you've been tagged in a photo and it's a photo of you that you've never seen yourself like that before. And there's so many things in photography that can work for you, like light and composition and whatever. There's all those things, but they can also heavily work against you.
Yeah.
And so we've all seen that where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm having like an out of body experience. I don't think I look like that, but there's a photo of me like that. And there's also the other side of it where you can feel so seen and so yourself in a photo. And I think particularly women can be so self-critical and women also change so much in their life. Like our bodies change, our identities change, like everything changes so much that to help people feel so themselves for themselves, even if it's a headshot for work or for whatever, to bring that out of them for them and to kind of break that down is so special. It is absolutely my favorite part of my job.
I just recently joined LinkedIn. And
Good. Perfect.
For the first 2 months, I had 7 connections, my family and David, and he was and so
Really?
David's like, "You've got to add people to LinkedIn." And I get it. Yes, doing coaching with small business owners and leaders and teams, it's helpful for people to be able to go on there and be like, "What does she do exactly?" So I'm on there. Yes. But now that I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of fun. Who do I know?" And, "Oh my god, I remember this person from university." So now I'm having a bit of fun with it when I go on there to see who I know and to connect with them. But I noticed their photos and I'm like, "That's the shot? Like, that's what you chose?" And I'm like,
Guys.
"Gosh, could we gift everyone a session with you?" Everyone on
That's so
LinkedIn. No.
nice.
Maybe they don't get the importance of just having a photo that makes them feel really confident. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful photos on there. My goodness, a lot. I just was noticing there's a lot that aren't so great. And how nice would it be if everyone could just like have something that like captures who they are right now? And then when they go through a change of whatever career or hair color or whatever, like you just said, we go through many changes in our lives and we evolve just like to get that new shot. I think it's so important. And I get that it's an investment of time and money and energy, but it's so
Mhm.
worth it. And also, I mean, I love small business and I love working with small businesses and small business owners. And I get that branding is expensive, but
Mhm.
my gosh, when you nail it, it just speaks volumes of who you
Yeah.
are, what you stand for, your values, your ethos, like all of that stuff can be captured in a still shot. It's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
okay, what is, you don't have to say working with me, me aside, is there like a campaign you worked on that's like a standout as a fave?
As a fave, I have a lot of favorite campaigns. I can't say that I have this, like, shining star, this was the best project that I ever worked on sort of thing, but I do have a lot of little ones, and I would definitely put yours in that category. Um, and not only am I super proud of the final images, but I think the process from start to finish was just, put together so that there was preparation ahead of time, so that really helps me. And it's a lot more challenging when someone's like, "I wanna do a brand shoot, but I don't have a brand." That takes a lot more exploration, and my background is in, like, PR and communications, so I can kind of, like, exercise those muscles that informs a lot of, like, the brand work when it needs to come out. But the most ideal situation is when someone has had this brand exploration, they've carved out what is the tone, what is the message, what do we stand for? Because though those may not literally describe images that we should create, it gives a sense. It's like it's better than a Pinterest board. You know what I mean? Just to understand sort of
Yes.
what those values are. And that work was done extremely well, and we hopped on lengthy calls together because you were so passionate, and that was the other piece of the recipe that's so perfect is the passion is there, and that's why I love working with small business so much because my client is often my subject, but my client is also someone typically who has a lot of, like, heart in the project, you know?
Right.
So that was a big one, and so by the time we showed up on the shoot day, I had a really strong understanding of what we were going to capture, and it was our first time working together, and I could sense that you trusted me, but you were like, "I hope you get it. I hope we get what we're planning for." And while I was shooting, I was like, "Oh, we're getting it and more." And I just felt so confident because I knew we shared a vision, and I knew I could deliver on that vision. And I remember I shot more than 5,000 photos over the 2 I think we
What?
shot 2 half
Yeah,
days.
we did 2 half days. Yeah.
One was the portraits of the team and the other one was the candid stuff, and the candid was really challenging to shoot because everyone was moving quite quickly, so I would have to just, like, kinda hold down my shutter and, like, capture a whole bunch of images because especially when people are moving, like, you might look great in one angle and then the next your hair is in your face or someone in the background is falling or, like whatever.
Right.
So I if you the more you shoot, the better the top 5% of the images are going to be. And so I went in and I shot like more than a wedding. And it took me so long to cull through the images because of that. But the result of it was so strong because we put all of that energy into it, including shooting as much as we did. So I use that as an example, and I'm not just saying it because it's us chatting, but that is sort of the recipe for it. It's like the level of collaboration and the heart and the energy in that. And also every single person in that room was on the same page with, feeling ready and excited about it. And like,
Yeah,
nervous in a sense, but the vibes were good and that
the
really
vibes were so
resonated.
good. So good. Were you always gonna get to brand photography or working with small businesses? Like, how in the world did you end up there?
That's a fabulous question. Yeah, no. So basically, I got how far back do I want to go with this? I started shooting weddings and families when I was sort of like in university and onward, and
Wait, what were you
they
studying in university?
communications and public relations.
Okay, you weren't studying photography. You did communications,
No,
PR, and you were like, I'm gonna start shooting and making some money
yeah.
here. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
not even that. It was like I got my first DSLR camera. My dad bought me my first camera when I graduated high
Ugh,
school, which, I'd been shooting with this tiny little like digital camera prior to that, and I absolutely loved it because it could only do so much. And so you needed to be sort of creative around that tool, and use it as just sort of that last point and shoot, get the photo from there sort of thing. And then when I got this DSLR camera, the Canon Rebel
had it.
T1i with the kit lens.
Yep.
Yeah,
Had it,
stunning
loved it,
camera. Loved it. I
loved it.
pretty sure I still have it. Anyway,
Sames.
I felt so overwhelmed by the idea that I can not only change like what is in front of me and what the person is doing or the landscape is sitting there, whatever, but also to manipulate my camera. What's the shutter speed? What's the aperture? Like that. I just never had that much control on that side of the process of photography. So I was very overwhelmed, but I kind of got the knack of it. It was just for fun. And I would shoot with friends and we'd get together with girlfriends and have a photo shoot or whatever. And just that process has always been just fun. And then one day, one of my girlfriends said, "Hey, could you take our family photo for a Christmas card? What do you charge?" And I was like, "What do I charge? Good question." And I just like threw a number out there. I think it was like $100 or something. And that opportunity just fell in my lap. And then other people saw that I took that family photo. So I got hired by other people. And then it became someone that, I worked with. They were getting married and would I shoot their wedding? And I'm like, all right, like, okay. And, people started taking a chance on me because I was such a baby photographer, barely knew what I was doing, but slowly but surely the opportunities just kind of fell in my lap, which I'm very grateful for. And so I always just had this side gig going on. So during university and when I had my first job and when I moved to Toronto, I still had stuff going on that brought me back to Sudbury for work. And I would say I would average for about 10 years, I was averaging about like 10 weddings a summer. So I'd go
Mostly
back
in
to Sudbury
Sudbury?
primarily.
Right.
Yeah. So even
Okay,
in
okay.
Toronto, I would just drive right back to Sudbury on the weekend, stay with my parents, shoot a wedding on the Saturday, maybe a family on the Sunday, back to Toronto, back to my normal day job sort of thing. Anyway, so it was always a side thing for me. And I honestly don't remember when that switch flipped that I could think about pursuing it more than just a side gig. But I did at one point decide there was this job opportunity I had in Toronto where it was a 3 day a week project management job at George Brown. And I thought this is kind of interesting because this would allow me to sort of explore what my life would look like if I gave a little more energy to my photography. And I was
The other 2 days,
so,
you mean?
yeah, yeah. So it was like a Tuesday to Thursday job. And so Monday and
Oh.
Friday, and I guess on the weekend, if I wanted to, I could devote to photography. And I was leading into a summer of like, more weddings than I probably should have committed to and whatever. So I decided to take that opportunity. And I remember being so terrified that I was responsible for 40% of my salary. because it was 2 days a week. The other 3 were paid with George Brown. Um, I remember just like that was so nerve-wracking. I couldn't believe it. And in that process, once I took that job, things started rolling. I realized that if I open myself up to that time, and also just like put that on me that, okay, now I have 40% of my salary that I have to make for myself. It came to me because I was putting energy into it as well, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I had more time to think about photography as a business. I had more time to think about what my pricing would be or doing outreach or whatever. And at the time, it was all families and weddings. And I was trying to grow more in Toronto because that's where I lived. Um, but that's sort of how it started. So about 2 years later, maybe just shy of 2 years of doing that sort of like working 3 days here, doing photography kind of on the side, but kind of not. I had sort of grown enough where I was like, you know what? It's my time. I need to go full time with my photography. I'm going to try it out. I had a bunch of weddings, and weddings was nice because you book, a year in advance, sometimes more. So you kind of know you're going into a year knowing, okay, I'm going to make at least this amount of money. And then that's the baseline for the year kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I went full time with my photography. I quit my job. My first day of working full time, I'm in Thirkill photography, I think was March 6th, 2020. So mere business days later,
Oh my God, Amanda.
pandemic. Yeah. It was crazy. That was crazy. And I honestly do not remember how I felt in that moment. I think there was a lot of different emotions, but during the pandemic, there were a lot of times where you weren't allowed to have a big wedding. So a lot of people were postponing their weddings. We weren't doing family shoots, or weddings were really small and the scope was changed. And there was just a lot of sort of change at that time. But what was permitted was commercial photography. So I started looking at that and I thought, you know what? Like, I've taken some photos for businesses and I've taken some headshots, but weddings and families were just more stuff that kind of fell into my lap. Um, but with my communications background and PR, I kind of felt like I had a natural understanding of what the needs would be for brand photography or whatever. So I started writing proposals for contract work sort of thing. And I landed a contract with an alcohol brand in the States, super random. And I was creating content for them and I was doing some social media work for them. During COVID, I just learned that, oh, I can be scrappy. Like I can, I have to
Yeah.
switch gears and I will. So here I am. I'm just going to be scrappy with this. I'll get this contract. I'll do what I can. And I kind of fell in love with the product photography and stuff that would just sort of support a brand or support like the stories that this brand was telling. Um, and it was also allowed in COVID times. So that's where I started getting that experience. And I also really enjoyed that I could shoot on a Monday to Friday. My partner and I were getting more serious. We had moved in together. He worked Monday to Friday. And it was kind of nice that our weekends were for us. And my clients could take a call midday on a Wednesday. It wasn't, weddings and families, it was evening and weekend work almost
Right.
exclusively.
Right.
So I really liked what it did for my personal schedule. I thought that I felt very aligned with the work in a lot of ways, and so I started sort of leaning in that direction slowly, and eventually I kind of stepped slowly back from wedding photography and slowly more into portrait work and brand and small commercial work.
Now
Anyway,
it's
that's the long of it.
well, it's interesting, right? And the fact that COVID happened 10 days after you launched your business, that's terrifying. And I can only imagine all of the things that went through your mind because similar things went through mine. And I had an established business that, yeah, so it's two different realities and two different reactions for sure. But oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
thoughts of having given up that solid contract and then that happening. But what I love about you is this natural entrepreneurial side where you're like, I'll
Mm.
find it, I'll get scrappy. And also, isn't it so interesting that our pasts do find their way to thread through our futures? And yes, It sounds obvious, but it's not. When you're the one in it, you're like, well, I used to do PR and communications, but now I'm a photographer with weddings and families. But like, boom, full circle. Now you work with brands. I mean, branding is all about how you're going to communicate who you are and what you do and who you do it for.
Mhm.
It's so smart what you've done. And I think that's why you're so
Thank
good
you.
at it, right?
Thank you.
And then, wait, so you were living in, you're very welcome. You were living in Sudbury doing weddings, and then you were in university and you were going back to Sudbury. And then you moved to Toronto and you were working and driving back to Sudbury, but trying to build up more business in Toronto. And then, like, how did you end up in Ottawa and when?
Well, so during COVID, it was about a year in. It was like late 2020, early 2021 when my partner and I were in our tiny little condo, and our balcony was like a foot, maybe 2 feet wide, and we would sit there with our legs crossed, and we'd like have a beer on the
You're
patio. We
like, we're
called it our
outside.
backyard. We got like turf, like fake grass, just to have a sense of like this is our backyard. But we were like, okay, my parents live 4 hours north. He's from Ottawa. His parents were 4 hours east. And we were like, we're going to be together forever. Here we are. And our families are super far apart from one another. And there is nothing between the two that at least interests us in terms of a place to live. And so we were like, let's just, we weren't necessarily ready to leave Toronto. We loved living there. We had just been shut in for so long, and we were missing our families, and we were missing sort of more access to nature and outside of our backyard. Um, and so we were thinking about Ottawa, and we were like, yeah, looking at places and how could this work? And I was really apprehensive. I wanted to move to Ottawa. I was really excited by the idea of it, but I had no professional connections there. I didn't know anybody outside of Al's family and like a handful of his high school friends, sort of thing. And so I thought, if I can't in person connect with people and no one there knows my name, how can I rebuild my business? Like, I'd have to apply for a different job. I'd have to like give up on this. And so I convinced my big city boyfriend, or yeah, boyfriend at the time, to move to Sudbury because he works in construction management, in like civil construction. He can kind of get a job in any sort of city. And so he was able to find work, and I was able to walk into a place where a lot of people knew my name. I had a lot of clients there. I went to school there, and just naturally, like, it's a small enough city where you walk into the grocery store and you kind of just look around like, who is it? Who is it that I'm going to run into? And so that was really good for having a network and for business. You're just top of mind when you run into people all the time. And so we actually moved to Sudbury, and we were there for like 2 years between 2021 and 2023, which was really great. I immediately walked into like a full schedule. I had some weddings there that I was shooting. I was able to really connect in the business community there. I felt really like welcomed and like celebrated, if that makes sense, like just really connected in the
Yeah.
community there. And it was a really good feeling, especially having come from, you know, COVID lockdown sort of thing. It was a really nice move for us to make. And eventually, COVID lockdowns were kind of lifting, and we both, we had a conversation, and we enjoyed living in Sudbury, but we were craving a bit of a bigger city, which would mean more opportunity for me and more opportunities for him and his work too. So we decided to move to Ottawa at that time. Anyway, so that's how I got to Ottawa. Al's family lives here. And it was really, really intimidating because I didn't know anybody there. And, you know, despite having this, like, you know, at the time, it was probably 12 years of photography experience, not always full time, but a lot of photography experience and a lot of really cool things in my portfolio that I was really proud of. And, my brand was all, sorted out. I had my website, I had all this stuff, but moving to a city where no one knows your name and no one recognizes anyone or anything in your portfolio,
Right.
not
That's
ideal. So I had to completely
right.
rebuild my network. and completely overhaul my portfolio and squeeze sort of every skill, every lesson that I ever learned in my education background, in my work background, in anything that I had done up to that point. I feel like every single one of those experiences aided me in this climb of this giant uphill that I had in front of me when I moved to Ottawa. And you were saying, like, it's funny how your past kind of comes back, or what you did, you know, eventually will come back around, and you'll experience it, or you'll sort of appreciate it in a different way. And I totally experienced that when I moved to Ottawa. I felt ready more than, than ever before, sort of thing, to start that journey.
And so, is that when you came up with the idea for the International Women's Day campaign that you've started now?
Yeah.
Because what month was it you moved here?
So I moved here in February.
Did you do it right
It's
away that March?
No,
I was
imagine.
gonna
No,
say, my
no.
God. Okay. Okay. So you're here a
No, so
year.
it was the 1 year. I kind of used it as like, I've been here 1 year. It kind of marked the 1 year anniversary of me moving to Ottawa. Um, and I was still rebuilding. I still am. But I just thought, like, what a cool opportunity that I have to celebrate International Women's Day. Why don't I do like a passion project? So it started out as me sort of looking around and thinking maybe I can select 5 women, one for each day of the week, Monday to Friday. I'm very invested in my Monday to Friday schedule. Select 5 women that I had met in that first year of being in Ottawa who inspired me, who, for one reason or another, I'd love to get in front of my lens to capture portraits of them, and share a little bit about them and sort of spotlight them during International Women's Week or whatever. And so it just started simply as that. And it was so beautifully received by the community in Ottawa. And it was just such a really great, feel good, community building kind of thing that I got to do. And it was just so genuinely fun and special to get to do it with these women. And anyway, the outpouring of love that these women received just by us sort of sharing a little bit about them and sharing these portraits that brought out their personality a little bit was just so special. And so the next year I did much of the same, but I had a lot more help, sort of a team around me. So we had a stylist and a makeup artist and behind the scenes photography and behind the scenes content creation, just so that we could also sort of focus on these 5 women that we had decided to highlight or spotlight through the project, but also cast a light a little bit on the creative team that put it all together. It was a team of women. And so that's how it grew in its second year. And this year is the third year, and it's grown again. And it's really cool to see how the community has really, like, it just feels like the community is hungry to celebrate people, and there's a lot of love to be shared. It's been a really well received and great project that I've been able to take on the last few years.
As someone who also moved to Ottawa from a smaller town, what I love about Ottawa and what I think I quickly learned, and I'm sure you did as well, it's a very connected city. Like people are very supportive. Like when I first opened a business and became a part of the fitness community, I quickly learned that it wasn't Nadine against every other studio. It was actually, here's what I do, and here's what I do, and here's this. And oh, when that happened to me, I did this. And it was such a surprise for me to learn. And I don't know why. It's not like I thought Ottawa would have been cold, but because I wasn't from a big place, I assumed the kindness that surrounded me in Newfoundland was because it was Newfoundlanders. And some of that is. But
I bet.
Ottawa, Ottawa is labeled as this little big city, and it is. It's a million people, but my God, do we love to support each other, and especially in the small business community. And I speak mostly about that because that's the lump sum of my experience living in the city
Mhm.
for most of my 18 years. That's what I've done. And so when I saw what you did, that campaign stood out. And I was like, well, that's really beautiful because it was giving this love to these women that work really flipping hard. Because that first year was 5 entrepreneurs, I believe.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was nice to get to hit that like button and add a little comment and see that. And then see your work on the other side of it. And the second year, how did you pick them in the second year, the 5 women that you worked with?
It was a bit of a, yeah, the first year was very focused on entrepreneurs. I love working with entrepreneurs, so that was fun. The second year, I wanted it to be a little less specific on career and more just sort of like a woman, the different sort of layers of women. So it wasn't necessarily, here are the categories, here are the things that I'm looking for in selecting this woman. It was sort of much of the same concept as the first year, who are women that I've crossed paths with in the first couple of years that I think could benefit from a bit of a spotlight, just women that I was interested in one way or another to capture and include in this series. But I didn't want it to only be about career. And so when we were shaping the bios or the wise words, the quotes that we were sharing alongside the portraits, I wanted these words to be coming from the woman, not the professional title, if that made sense.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
what about this year? So this year there's 15. How did
There's
you decide to
actually
do that?
16. Someone came in late.
Stop.
So
Oh my
16,
God.
but
How did
15 as well.
how did you decide?
So this year, so I was also feeling like, okay, this project is growing and there's more eyes on it. And I wanted sort of a wider range of people to spotlight in our community. And I also wanted it to be a bit more communal in terms of who was nominating. So everyone who's involved in the project, we have an event planner, we have stylists, we have a makeup artist, we have behind the scenes, photography and content creation. I wanted to sort of give everyone who's involved an opportunity to nominate someone as well, because I think the more people that we can capture and the bigger it grows, the better for everybody.
It's such a beautiful thing that you've done, that you've created. Yeah. As someone who gets to do it this year, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Ugh. Do you like having your photo taken?
Well, kind of. I think it's a fun opportunity. I think when you have the right photographer, the right person that is with you to capture your photos, I think it can be a really fun opportunity to like represent yourself. I try every time I get portraits taken for my website, I try to sort of remember that this is, even though it's professionally motivated, it's also incredibly personal. Think of it as like your school photo. What am I going to wear? What am I going to do for my hair? What am I going to do to like represent me in this chapter of life? And that kind of takes the pressure off a little bit because it kind of centers it just as like, this is for me and I have control and I'll get these images and then I use them for however I want for my brand or whatever. But I understand the intimidation of being in front of the camera massively. Um, but I also know how it feels to be in that like flow of creativity and, maybe you're stiff at the beginning, but most of the time in a portrait shoot when things are going well, it gets to a point where it's like, let's try this, let's do that. And there's just this like openness that's so fun and creative. And I just really love that process. It's super weird being in front of the camera, but it can also be super fun. And I think, you mentioned that investing in portraits, it's not just a money investment, it's time, it's energy. You're really putting yourself out there in a lot of ways. But what a luxury it is to be in that space and to have the opportunity to sort of express yourself the way that you want to, um, and not take it too seriously. I think that that goes a long way in the photos really being very authentic when you just get to be yourself and it's just like any other day. Let's just hang out and have some fun and see what we capture from this. And if we need to infuse strategy, we put some strategy in it too. But ultimately, I think that will yield the best results more than anything else, just having a good time and not taking it too seriously.
You believe you get to do this for a living?
No,
Like, I know it's a lot of work, but how flippin' cool that you get to be a photographer.
I love it so much. I love it so much for so many reasons. Little Amanda would freak out. Like, I can't imagine what I would be feeling as a younger version of myself, sort of getting to see where my career has taken me because it's been such a treat and such a unique experience. And I love photography so much. And I think what I love even more is that I get to make my own decisions and fuel my own life. You know what I mean? Like by having sort of
Yeah.
a unique, flexible schedule or working lifestyle, it kind of allows me to build a schedule that's really healthy for me so I can prioritize when I want to go to the gym or, like things like that. It makes a healthier me. And by having a healthier me, that makes me do better work and balancing, my work and my personal life or finding harmony sort of between them. It feels very unique. And I've just really loved the process of getting to create that and also recreate it as my needs change, as my preferences change. It's such a special thing. I know you get it because being self-employed is just
It's a
the
dream.
best. It is.
It's a lot of work and it's a dream. And little kid Nadine is like, yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Yes.
Okay, I'm very curious. You're on vacation with Al, and you're like, I'm not working. You've set your email to out of office, best moment ever. But how do you get out of your job? Because there's always something beautiful to capture. Like whether you're walking in Ottawa and it's just like a Sunday that you're like, I'm not going to work today, or you've gone to Europe, or you're at Manitoulin Island with your family. Like, is there ever a time when you're like, that's a beautiful shot, but I'm not doing it? Is there ever a time you're exhausted with it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There's so many ways to answer this. I've got two answers.
Yeah.
One of them is I find some people are surprised by this, but my work, I would say like 90%, maybe even more than 90% of my work is done without a camera in my hands. It's a lot of connecting with people, putting together scopes, discussing ideas. There's so much other work at my computer than physically shooting. And so I don't necessarily feel tired of physically shooting. Um, what I do feel tired of is if I'm on vacation and I take all these photos, then I have to run them through my process where I'm backing them up and I'm culling them and I'm editing them and that can be a little bit more monotonous than just bringing my camera out and shooting. That's the fun part,
Got
and I
you.
barely consider that
Okay.
work. However, I will say if I'm on vacation with Al, it's such a difficult decision for me on whether I bring my camera or I do not because and I honestly don't shoot personal a lot with my camera anymore. My camera kind of sits as a tool for my work to a degree. I have like a little film camera that I'll take and use it a little bit more casually, and that can be a good solution in a sense for vacation because you don't have to edit, you just get it
Hmm.
developed. But I find when I am walking around, say we're in Europe or whatever, and I've got a camera around my neck, I'm being present, but I'm being present as a photographer. And when I don't have my camera around my neck, I'm being present in a different way. I'm being present with my husband on vacation. And oftentimes, the decision for me to choose whether I bring my camera or not is like, what's going to give me more FOMO? Am I going to feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I had my camera. I want to capture this. Or am I going to feel like, oh, I felt like I needed to take all these photos this whole time. And Al was just waiting for me on the side of the street while I shot all these
Right.
angles or whatever. Okay, third answer. Sorry. This is the best one. So I'm going to say it as a perfect soundbite. When I was little, my dad shot, like I was saying, with this film camera. It was a Minolta camera, and I was in at my parents' house, and we found the old camera, and it's broken. It doesn't work, but I took note of the name of it, and I took the lenses because the lenses were fine. The body was just broken, and I found on eBay the exact same model, and so I ordered it. It was like $100. I don't think it's a super fancy camera, and I also barely know how to use it. I just sort of put it on auto, and away we go. But I used the lenses that were my dad's, and they fit on the body. It's the same body. The sound of the shutter's the same. The sound of the film, when you reach the end and it's winding, it's all the same. It's so nostalgic. And I just kind of bought it for fun, thinking this would be really cool and to show my dad, look what I got. But it has been such a really beautiful thing to have for going on vacation or, going for a walk around Ottawa where if you see a shot, you can take it, but there's nothing to see when you're done. There's no screen. You're not reviewing it. You don't have to edit it. You don't have to run it through your backup system, cull through everything. It's just you take the photo, you put the camera away. And by the time the roll of film is done, half the time I forget what's on the roll. So we get it developed, and I'm just waiting for this email to come in with the scans because I barely know what's on the roll, or I do, and I'm excited. And either way, when that email comes in, it's such a cool moment to flip through just 36 photos of these little moments. And it was just a fleeting thought of this is a really cool angle, view, whatever. I'm going to put it away now. And that has been really separate to the way that I work professionally. There's a lot more in the process when I'm shooting professionally. There's a lot more control. There's a lot more time put into it. But this film camera has allowed me to continue loving photography on the personal side in a way that separates it from what I do for work.
You've inspired me to get a film camera. I love the idea of you just snap a couple and then the next time you take it, you snap a couple more. And then by the time 36 are up, you do kind of forget. And then you have that excitement, that little kid excitement. Anyway, you've inspired me.
Yes.
Okay, one more question. Okay,
Sure.
well, I could ask you a million. If someone was to tell you that they want to do this as a career and you can only pass along one thing, what would you pass along? Advice wise.
I don't have a short answer for this. I think if I were to make it short, I think it would be make it your own. And the reason I say that is because the photography industry is changing all of the time, very massively. What it means to be a photographer is changing. It's also very unregulated. Like one photographer's system or path or standard is very, very different from the next. And when I was when I took it more seriously, when I started sort of becoming a professional photographer, I was really seeking out mentorship from a very wide range of people, photographers, non-photographers. And I actually found a lot of the advice from non-photographers resonated more. It was more about business, or, the advice was a bit more maybe vague, or something that I could take and make my own, versus I would sit down with a photographer and it's like, this is how they work. This is what you should do. And every photographer is different. Every photographer is going to see things a different way. Some people are going to be really into a bunch of gear, and some people are just going to shoot with one camera, one lens. And if you become an expert in what you do and you define what you do and who you offer it to and what that value is, and lean hard into this craft for in your individual reasons, will be the path to success. And staying in your lane, paying attention to who's surrounding you, sort of thing, but really staying in your lane and keeping your head down on your thing, to me, is the way to become a good photographer.
What's inspiring you right now?
Who or what?
Mhm. Yeah,
Who?
what? Yeah, great.
Well, I'm very focused on this International Women's Day portrait series. I know this is coming out when the series is coming out, but we're recording it beforehand. I am so inspired by the people that have said yes. I'm really looking inward at this community and the people that we've invited to this series and the people that are opening themselves up to being part of this project when they don't know maybe how the photos are going to turn out or what it's going to be, but they're taking a chance on me and on the project, and they're seeing, there's some benefit to being part of it. But that is so inspiring to me. And to have the privilege of shooting all of these people and having their trust with it and getting to connect with them and do what I do as best as I can is so inspiring. And I just like, pinch me, like, it's just so wonderful.
God, pinch us. You're amazing.
Everybody's pinching
How
everybody.
how is Amanda doing?
I'm doing great. Amanda's doing great. Um, I was I saw this question beforehand. You sent it to me, and I was thinking this is such a funny question because I'm still rebuilding. I'm still growing in Ottawa, and I still have room to grow, and I have big goals, big dreams for sort of how I want to grow and expand. But this season right now is a very good season for me. The springtime always has tons of momentum. I love feeling the sun on my skin. It's finally March. Personally, there's lots of momentum. Professionally, there's lots of momentum. But if you were to ask me this question like 2 months ago in January, yes, I think I'd always say I'm doing well, but it's the seasons for me work-wise are very up and down. There's busy times where I feel like I'm thriving and I feel like, oh, I've made it. I'm here. I have this pace of work and life and this sort of creative flow and it's just working for me. And I really feel that right now. And then there's other moments where things are really quiet because it's January or it's August and everybody's on vacation. And that has always been a part of the job, the ups and downs of it. And for like 15 years, I've been trying to navigate, okay, don't freak
Mhm.
out when no one's emailing you. It's just New Year's Day sort of thing.
Yeah.
And don't get too excited when you've got all these inquiries or all this work lined up. Like remember that this has its ups and downs and to navigate that has been really challenging. But yeah, I appreciate you asking. I'm doing really, really well. And I'm just so excited by the momentum this year. This project has a lot to do with it. And this time of year is big for momentum, and I'm really riding it.
I think it's such a great reminder to everybody that life just ebbs and flows, like, and you can't hold on to either experience because, when times are good, we're like, I just want to hang on to this. But then you're not like actually able to sit and enjoy it because you're just so caught up in like, I don't want this to end. And then
Yeah,
when life is hitting you in the face, it's like, when will this be over? I just want the good things to come again, or I just want to be even and steady. And it's just like trusting it's going to all ebb and flow. It always does. It
hmm,
always will. What a
you're so
lovely,
right.
beautiful reminder from the loveliest, most beautiful human. Amanda, thanks for chatting with me. I love you. Can't wait
Oh,
to
I
work with
love you
you.
too. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and I was just
Me
so
too.
touched when you invited me. I truly couldn't believe it, honestly, but I was so pleased that you invited me. Thank you so much.
Oh, listen, you're doing like one of my little kid dreams. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I loved photography all my life. And I used to develop my own photos, like black and white. I think that was all black and
Oh,
white that I would have developed. I don't think I ever did color. Yeah, and like a dark room. In university, I would rent out the dark room.
oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, I loved it. So you are living an alternative world for me. And I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. I admire you. I love watching what you do. I love seeing your portfolio grow. I love looking at your work. It's really stunning. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That means so much. I feel very seen by you, and that means a lot.
Have a lovely day. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.